My name is Billy McFarland, and I created the world's most notorious festival, Fyre Fest, and went to jail for it. Fyre all started when this pilot walked into our Magnesis townhouse one night, and he told our front desk staff that he owned an airplane and that he wanted to fly me and other Magnesis members to the Bahamas for a trip. And that first Bahamas trip, that was the moment of a lifetime. I think it was pretty indicative of what was to come when our plane ran out of fuel. And we couldn't reach the island that we were intending to reach. And like with our last bit of fuel, we were circling over this one house in the island like 4 or 5 times. And I asked the pilot over the headset, I'm like, what are we doing? He goes, oh, we need to wake the guy up so he picks us up from the airport later. We landed on this like remote runway on this island called Norman's Key. And there was this magic in the air the second we stepped off the plane. The clearest blue water you've ever seen, like the softest sand. This first trip to the Bahamas, it was the best weekend of my life. The group who flew together, we just bonded over like the most basic things, and it just felt so pure. And we all left like the best of friends. And my high school friends said the magical words, you should totally do a music festival on this island for all the Magnesis members. And we turned that into, let's do a festival and call it Fyre Festival. And that started this whole 6 months of absolutely, wild highs and lows. Fyre seems so simple. I've been doing concerts for Magnesis members for years. I've been taking people on trips now to the Bahamas, and it just seemed like a combination of that. Doing concerts and bringing people to the Bahamas, which I love to do, and I think I was doing pretty well at. Remember, we released a trailer, and everybody thought it was genius. Everybody said it was the best thing ever. Everybody wanted to come. The biggest mistake of the trailer was that we set a date for 4 months after the video came out for the festival to take place. So the reality of Fyre Festival set in very quickly. The first kind of rude awakening moment was when the owner of Norman's Key, who we had an agreement with, canceled the deal on us. We have sold thousands of tickets, millions and millions of dollars. Like, what are we going to do? So it went from like, this is a great idea to, oh, I need to become a real estate developer and build a city, make the water work, put electricity in, and do all this in now a matter of 4 months. And I approached Fyre Festival like it was a website, where I could build a website in a couple of days, put it live. There will be problems, but that's totally okay. We can fix them. Their problems range from how do we get fresh water onto the island? Okay, we went and spent all these resources to literally drill a water well and to install a reverse osmosis system to turn the salt water into fresh water. Okay, that challenge solved. The next challenge is how can we possibly fly 3,000 people into the island? We actually chartered 2 737s, and we installed a terminal in Miami International Airport to fly the guests there. So like that challenge solved. That's another 3 or 4 days of time and an extra $2 million of resources. We installed all these tents, and we were celebrating that we managed to figure out how to get tents in the island. Then someone said, like, where are people going to sleep? Now we buy the mattresses, and we're celebrating that, okay, great. Oh, how do we get the mattresses from, the US to the Bahamas now? So now we have to charter cargo planes to carry all the mattresses. So like every solution created a new problem. We would get so intoxicated by solving the impossible that we failed, or I really failed, to zoom out and realize that, okay, we pulled off the impossible twice, but now we have to do it 2,000 more times, and that's just not practical. I had a whiteboard that said like, X number of days until Fyre Fest. And it was supposed to be like how many days until Christmas, right? But instead it was this like forever looming deadline where as the number got smaller, the problems got larger. The days were counting down, the costs were becoming insurmountable, and I needed cash flow to pay the bills to keep Fyre Festival going. And I started lying to investors to get more money that I thought I needed to make Fyre happen. I inflated how much money we had and the sponsors that were interested in us. It just got to a point where every day the challenges became worse and worse. Things were out of control, and a storm was brewing, literally. It's Wednesday morning, the day before Fyre. We are putting the final mattresses, carpets, and everything in the tents. Everything is looking really good. And for the first time all week, the weather report changes, and it shows a slight chance of showers. You couldn't have scripted this storm any worse than it was. It was as if it was the middle of hurricane season in the Bahamas, which it wasn't. And right after the storm rolled in, one of our employees drove over a water line with a cargo truck. So as the rain is falling from the sky, our internal water system gets knocked out, and that's splashing water everywhere. The site was devastated by the storm. We knew that first plane was landing right after sunrise on Thursday morning. And I felt like our festival site wasn't ready and it didn't look good enough. Obviously it wasn't ready. So instead of having people come to the festival site in groups of 70 people off the plane, I basically took a beach on the other side of the island. I sent everybody there. We sent all of our boats and jet skis and toys and booze and everything we had to this island and basically gave people this big party all day long. And finally, when the sun set, we said, okay, it's time to come back to the festival site.
Like, what's up with this rocky beach?
So instead of 70 people at a time, sober and manageable coming, we now had 1,000 people, all descending, drunk.
Like a third world, documentary.
All trying to find their tents, and we couldn't handle that overflow. I'll never forget the moment where I'm standing on this milk carton trying to direct the chaos, and one of the big New York City-based tabloids, they're live streaming me, and the reporter goes, Billy, we have credible reports that you ran away, on your yacht with cocaine and hookers. And I'm like, guys, you're live streaming me on your website. I haven't slept or showered in 3 days. I'm standing in the middle of the festival in a milk carton. And we don't care, we have credible sources. And it was at that moment that really taught me how we were, because at that point, reality didn't matter. And the story of Fyre and the failure was too good to be true. And right when I got off the milk carton, my number 2 essentially at Fyre comes up to me and said, 3 people had died. He had these 3 detailed stories. Someone got bit by a pig, somebody got shot, somebody got kidnapped, and all these details. That stopped me. And I was overwhelmed with the emotions, and the first reaction was, okay, that's over my head now. I can't stop somebody from getting hurt. And I literally said, okay, let's cancel it. And I remember making the call to the airplane company and getting passion to the pilot who's in the air. He's like, are you sure? We literally turned a 737 around in the air, and that was the beginning of the end. When I was told that people were getting hurt, I immediately canceled on the spot. None of it was accurate. Thank God that wasn't true. Nobody was hurt at all, but it was still the end of the festival. Ultimately, I pled guilty. I was out on bail. I was desperate, and I started making really stupid decisions. And I think as a way to cope with what was happening, I made it a challenge. Okay, if I get this guy $5 million, now I'm not gonna go to jail. So I started trying to work and find opportunities and do whatever I could to find $5 million. I set up a business called NYC VIP Access. I was selling tickets to a variety of different fashion shows or different events. A lot of the events I had tickets for, others I thought I would have tickets to. Some I thought that, I've been invited in the past, so I'll be given a table again at this year's event. And ultimately I couldn't keep up with the tickets I was selling and was arrested.